The second week of the Copenhagen climate talks has seen sharper divisions between developing countries and their developed counterparts. Representatives from mostly African nations walked out of the conference hall on Monday morning, accusing the wealthier nations of trying to kill the Kyoto Protocol. Although the talks resumed in the afternoon, the sharp differences between the stances of developing and developed nations has cast a shadow over the conference. Li Ying has more.
The disruption of Monday morning's talks signaled that the Copenhagen conference has entered a truly challenging stage. Representatives of developing nations have become more outspoken compared to the first week, and they are not hiding their dissatisfaction of the slow progress of the conference.
We are not afraid. We know that the developed countries have made that decision, that they would want to kill Kyoto Protocol in order to change the balance of obligations between developing countries and developed countries. And that is absolutely unacceptable to all members of G77.
The sticking point here is indeed the Kyoto Protocol. The developing countries want to extend the 1997 Kyoto Protocol, which imposed penalties on rich nations if they did not comply with the strict emissions limits. But most rich nations want to merge the Kyoto Protocol into a new single accord with obligations for all to fight global warming. Many African representatives maintain that the protocol is crucial to the basic interests of a continent which is most vulnerable to climate change. They also argue that economic assistance alone cannot guarantee their rights to sustainable development.
Giving Africa money, yes, it will do something, but it's not enough, and therefore Africa will make a stand. No longer the Africa come in with a cup in hand looking as a begging bowl. Absolutely not. We've now come in the new era of Africans who understand the politics, who understand the international dynamics, and will make a stand to get the best deal for Africa.
Representatives from developing nations also say they didn't intend to boycott the talks. They just wanted to draw attention to where the dilemma is and still look forward to a constructive deal in the end.
We, like you, are very concerned.
The idea is not to blame anybody, but to identify what is wrong and then move on towards a common solution that will benefit all of us.
The head of the Chinese delegation, Xie Zhenhua, says China is still a developing country and it is not obliged to help fund other countries' emission reduction efforts, according to the principles of the UN Climate Change Framework Convention. But it stresses that China believes the most underdeveloped African countries and the world's small island countries should prioritize utilizing international economic assistance. He added that China is also willing to provide assistance to these countries within its capabilities. Hundreds of heads of state will be gathering in Copenhagen later this week, and the world will be watching closely to see whether a legally binding deal can be sealed. Leah, CCTV.
China has reiterated its position that the world's developed countries should provide additional and sufficient funds for developing nations to tackle climate change. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Jiang Yu has refuted reports that Vice Foreign Minister He Yafei said China would not be seeking support from the developed world to cut its emissions. Jiang says the remarks were misunderstood. She says China's position is that the least developed small island and African countries should have priority use of funds for tackling climate change. Jiang also noted developed countries had failed to honor their commitments to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and developing countries were skeptical about their sincerity.
It's widely acknowledged that the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change requires developed countries to provide funds and technology for developing countries. We insist that rich nations should provide funds and technology support to developing countries to improve their capacity in combating climate change.
This is CCTV International. Still to come on this news update. The violence in Pakistan continues after a suspected car bomb rips through a market square. And how much longer will Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi be in the hospital after being struck in the face at a rally on Sunday?